why I am most confident that Ohio State will win the national championship in 2024. Let's talk about it. All right, today I'm going to give you my three biggest reasons why I think Ohio State is going to win the national championship in 2024. We've heard all the hype. We heard the stuff about Urban saying best roster ever. We've heard all the hype about, what all the players coming back, all that stuff. But I want to dig in a little bit deeper and give you my three main reasons why Ohio State is, in fact, in my mind, going to win it all in 2024. And I think the best place to start is the defense. Now, while I'm going through this, if you have any reasons that you think that need to be added to this list, or just outright like you have something to add to one of my points or something like that, feel free, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. I try to go through and respond to comments. So if you have something that's actually conversational to say and not just like shut up, then I will respond to you. If you just say shut up, I'm probably just not going to say anything back to you. So let's talk about it. So number one is this elite defense that we have. I mean, this defense is going to be incredible this year. It was already incredible last year, and you bring back so many players. The only player you don't bring back is Michael Hall Jr., which like I really, really like Michael Hall Jr., but he's more of a pass rusher. He's not so much of a player that's going to stop the run. And so you're replacing him with most likely Ty Hamilton, and also Caden McDonald. Hero Canoe is going to be able to get in there. And so you bring these other guys in as well, and I think Ty Hamilton has been a good piece of this team for years now, and he's played a lot of different times. And so giving him this actual starting spot to really let him flourish is going to be huge. I think this defense is going to be far better than they were last year. So let's look at some of the numbers really fast. Okay. So CFB stats, like going to this website personally, and they have some good information here. So this is the yards per game last year. Ohio State is third. All right, and yards per game last year. Let's take a look at yards per play. Oh, wow, look at that. Ohio State in front of Michigan with 4.17. Ohio State had a lot of plays last year. The offense couldn't stay on the field as much as some other teams, so obviously not as much as Iowa. That poor defense, 970 plays. I wonder if that's the most out of anybody. It would have to be, right? 970. Nope, it's fourth worst. Washington, oh my word. Well, they did play 15 games, so that makes sense. But yeah, but the biggest strength of this defense, the secondary, which I'm gonna go look at right now, that they are all back, other than one who got replaced with Caleb Downs. We took Josh Proctor out, who had a fantastic year, right? Considering the growth that he had and what he was years ago, but what he became his senior year. I mean, fantastic for him, but you're replacing him with All-American Caleb Downs. So the secondary is only going to get better. You look at yards per game, Ohio State leads over Michigan by a whole 12 yards, and they wouldn't even know the other team's plays. So, like, think about how impressive that is the entire time. And not just that, but you look at touchdowns, right? Ohio State only gave up 9 touchdowns last year. Now, this is the one area that Ohio State needs to improve. Well, probably one of the two areas that Ohio State needs to improve. I'll say one of the three. If we're being nitpicky, we'll say one of the three. Interceptions, only 7. 9 touchdowns. That's great. But all these other teams who had single digits or who had barely double digits here in the top 4, those ones had more interceptions than the other teams had touchdowns. We're going to need to see more of that this year. We're going to need to see more turnovers. We're going to need to see more ball hawks abilities, right? We're going to need to see more of that this year. Now, Jim Knowles and some of the defensive players have talked about how they're trying to incorporate that more and do some of those different things. But at the end of the day, these guys do believe that their job is to stop the other team and get them off the field. Do we completely agree with that? I don't know. The defense was pretty darn good last year, even though they weren't getting turnovers. So imagine if they really put an emphasis on it and they start getting turnovers this year. It's going to be even that much better. The other aspect, which I don't have the numbers on it here, I guess I could pull it up if I go over to, let's see, sacks allowed. All right, I went to sacks. I don't know why I went to sacks allowed. Okay, sacks. If you go all the way down, you have Ohio State at 60th. Now, what other teams do you have around in there? UCF, Florida Atlantic, North Carolina, Utah State, Syracuse, Navy. I mean, Duke had a pretty good defense last year, but still, I mean, you don't want to have less sacks than Duke. So, I mean, this is something that they need to address. They obviously need to do a better job of trying to get to the quarterback. They did a really good job of containing the quarterback last year. Missouri excelled in that a little bit, but still, I mean, it wasn't anything astronomical that was able to lead the team down the field, a bunch of times. So they definitely lost containing a little bit on them in those ones, but still, I mean, this is an area that Ohio State does need to improve. So if they're able to improve their turnovers, if they're able to improve their sacks, even marginally, I'm not asking for them to lead the nation in interceptions. I'm not asking them to lead the nation in sacks, but even if they're able to get 30, what's a good benchmark here to be top 10? If you're able to get 35 plus sacks, that would put you top 20. I mean, that would be awesome. That's the kind of stuff you want to see. If you get 10 or more interceptions and you have a similar amount of passing touchdowns as you had last year, that's more passing touchdowns than you gave up. So I think that is personally the goal for this defense, is trying to get them to have more interceptions than passing touchdowns they give up, and just try to increase the sack total. I know that Larry Johnson and them talk about affecting the quarterback, and that stuff is great, but when you don't have an incomplete pass and you have a sack, that's less yards, that's helping your offense out more overall. That's just working together better as a team, and so I would love to see that kind of stuff. All right, let's go to one last thing, and I think this was the biggest reason why Ohio State had such an excellent defense last year. Let's look at the opponent long scrimmage plays. Ohio State gave up the second least amount of 10 plus yard plays. They gave up 120. Air Force gave up 118. Now I'd love to see a breakdown of like 10 plus yard plays per play, because I think Ohio State gave up a lot of plays last year, but still, that's fine. We don't have that. That's okay. 20 plus, Ohio State is third there. 30 plus, Ohio State second with 11. 40 plus, Ohio State first with 2. 50 plus, Ohio State second with 1. Wow, Illinois didn't give up any last year. That's really impressive. 60 plus, Ohio State tied for first. So the worst spot that Ohio State was in was, 20? They didn't get outside the top 3 in any of these yards per scrimmage or yards given up from the line of scrimmage. Ohio State could do this again. I would take this over interceptions. I would take this over sacks personally, because I think that this limits the other team from having those big plays that demoralizes your team. And I think that was one of the reasons why we saw Ohio State be as solid as they were last year. So that is a huge help. That is something that Ohio State needs to make sure they're continuing to do with Jim Knowles. Now, Jim Knowles needs to get more aggressive, needs to do a little bit more, kind of what he was doing his first year. Not too much. I think that he can afford to do it a little bit like he was in 2022, because he's going to have players he can trust more to maybe leave him out on an island. But still, I mean, at the end of the day, if you are giving up these kind of numbers again, you're going to be a nearly unstoppable defense. You're going to make the opponent earn every single yard they get, and that's only going to tire them out more and make it more difficult. So, all right, let's look at our next one here. My next one is, I think Ohio State has the best skill position players in the country. People can talk about Oregon with Evan Stewart and Tez Johnson and Jordan James. I think Ohio State has the best. I think they're the deepest. I think you have Carnell Tate, who had a fantastic freshman year last year. I know he didn't have the stats, right? But he still did very good every time he was in there. Watch some of the catches he had, too. I mean, some of the things he was able to do out there, you see it. You see the spark. You see the ability. It's going to be fantastic seeing him out there more. Again, this year you have Emeka Egbuka, who 2 years ago, he was thought to be a no doubt first round pick, and then last year he gets injured, loses a little bit of his draft buzz because of that. So he's coming back this year. I think he's going to play himself right into a first round pick again. And you have Jeremiah Smith, who, I mean, let's face it, he's going to be fantastic, right? Now, do I think he's going to be a Biletnikoff finalist and some of this other stuff people are putting on him? No, I don't think he is. But he's still going to be fantastic. He's going to be one of the best wide receivers in the nation, top 10, top 20 in my mind. I don't know if he's going to be top 5, but he's going to be a very good wide receiver this season, and he's going to be making some plays this year that make people really go crazy. Like, wow, that kid is a freshman. And so I think he's going to do that. It's going to be fantastic. And that's even yet to mention the running back duo between Quinshawn Judkins and Trevion Henderson. I don't know if you guys saw, but there were some Michigan podcasters, Scam Webb and his guys, that were trying to convince themselves that apparently Michigan has a better running back duo than Ohio State. You know why they're doing that? Because they're terrified of what Ohio State has. Ohio State has one of the fastest running backs in the nation, one of the shiftiest running backs in the nation, and Trevion Henderson, and they have Quinshawn Judkins, one of the best vision running backs in the nation. I heard some people say Ole Miss, their offensive line was the only reason why Quinshawn Judkins was able to do anything. No, go look at that offensive line last year. If you thought Ole Miss had a good offensive line, you don't know football. I'm sorry. But go watch that team. Quinshawn Judkins was making that offensive line right. I think Quinshawn Judkins has those abilities that people oftentimes overlook in running backs, and I think it's the kind of stuff that Coach Lachlan is trying to teach his players more than anything else. Those two things in my mind are vision and making your blocks right. That was an ability that Dallin Hayden had that made him very valuable. I think that's an area where Trevion Henderson struggles. I think sometimes people think it's vision. I think they're two different things. There is the ability to find the hole and hit it, and then there is the ability to make your blocker right. I think Quinshawn Judkins has that ability to make your blocker right. If you're watching the games, just watch how certain running backs are able to almost ride the backside of the blocker. I don't know a better way to put it. They're almost able to ride the backside of the blocker, and as soon as the defender takes a step one way, boom, they hit the other way, and they make the blocker right because they give that blocker leverage. I don't think Trevion Henderson does that as well as some other people. I think Trevion Henderson is one of the most athletically gifted guys out there. He's willing to put his head down. He's willing to hit guys. It's all fantastic. But if he can just get that make your blocker right ability, he's going to be the best running back in the nation, in my mind. Quinshawn Judkins has that ability. He has the vision. Doesn't necessarily have the speed of Trevion Henderson, but he is going to be one of the best running backs in the nation based off of some of those underrated abilities. I'm telling you guys, watch Quinshawn Judkins this year. When 2 years ago, I was doing TikToks for college football. I was doing all college football, and the person that I loved to do his highlights for the most was Quinshawn Judkins. And in fact, that same season, that was also the season when Will Howard took over for Adrian Martinez. I did a bunch of TikToks on him, and Will Howard, I looked at him and saw his game and thought, oh my gosh, this kid is way better than the second string quarterback at Kansas State. Why in the world wasn't he starting? He's huge. He's fast. Guys, I have been following Will Howard and Quinshawn Judkins for 2 years now. They're 2 years when they've really made a name for themselves. Both of these guys are fantastic. Both of these guys are going to bring elements to this Ohio State offense that I don't think people are expecting. I definitely don't think the opponents are expecting it, and it's going to be fantastic to see. I'm telling you guys, watch Quinshawn Judkins make his blockers right. You'll know it when you see it. Just look for it when he gets the ball. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know any other way to describe it, and if I tried to show you game tape, they demonetize the channel, and I don't want to do that to Mark. So finally, my last one. Guys, I don't think there is a hungrier, and gals, sorry. I don't think there is a hungrier group of players and a hungrier group of coaches than Ohio State. Ohio State knows that they have fallen short the past few years, right? I think that it was a gut punch in 2021 when they lost to Michigan and they thought, wow, we need to start reevaluating some things. They reevaluated some things, came back in 2022, and Michigan was doing their stuff, so whatever. But they came back, and that game that you saw against Georgia with how hungry that team was and how hungry Ryan Day was, I think we're going to see that this entire season. Now, do I think Ryan Day is going to be going up and down the sidelines like he was before? No, I don't think he's going to be doing that. But I think there is a level of hunger here with Ryan Day and a level of seriousness with him where he's learned, he's gotten better. He has the confidence of giving up play calling to Chip Kelly, his mentor. I look at this team, I look at everybody who's on staff, I look at all these players who come back, and I do not detect the issue of 2015 Ohio State or 2003 Ohio State where players were kind of complacent. You brought everybody back, but players were kind of complacent. They were fat and happy because they got what they wanted last year. They're not fat and happy. They are skinny and deprived this year. I mean, they are ready to go get what is theirs, and I think this is a huge aspect of college football that doesn't get talked about enough because of how professionalized it's been. But I still think these are college kids, these are college coaches, and emotion is a huge part of the game of football, especially in college, and I think that is going to be a huge piece for Ohio State this season. Let me know what you think. Do you think there's other reasons? Are you believing in something else that Ohio State has going on? Do you think there's another reason? You think 3 wasn't enough? Add some more in the comment section. I'll do my best to respond to as many of you as I can. But thank you so much for watching. Do appreciate it. Go check out my other content on the Big Ten Huddle channel. You can find links for that in the description, and you can follow me at JRs_rankings on Twitter, all those other places, and catch me on Sunday nights at 8 o'clock on the OHIO podcast, where we do game recaps, all different kinds of stuff. It's a good time with Eric and Chris and Mello and Devin, all those guys. So check it out, everybody. We do appreciate you coming here and watching this episode today. Have a good one.